The Dolphins are up next, coached by Kristian Woolf this year. Captain TBD, I believe Tom Gilbert's in the frame, but there's been no official announcement. I think it's the only club yet to announce it. Losses, Wayne Bennett seems to be a big one. Admittedly, he did leave. Most games he seemed to spend asleep on the sideline. Hubner, Ewan Aitken's a big one. Jesse Bromwich retired. TPJ, Edric Lee, and Tessie News gone. Daniel Saifidi comes in. Max Fane, and Junior Tupou, the Forgotten Tigers winger, also in. Finished 10th with 11 wins in 2024, including their first win in Sydney, which came around 15 against the Sharks. Only won 4 of the last 15 games on paper, which is a concern. I think Bulldogs Dynasty on YouTube gave us some credit for not completely disrespecting the Dolphins because the groundswell seems to be they're going to run last. I didn't see that. I was sort of optimistic.
I think they'll be fighting for the 8.
I thought so too, but there was apparently lots of...
I wouldn't be surprised if they make the 8. I don't think it'd be any higher than 7th or 8th, but I wouldn't be surprised if they scrape in there. They've got some talented outside backs.
Well, apparently lots of people with headsets like us seem to think they're going to run last. I don't see that at all.
I would like to hear how their roster is worse than Canberra.
Well, you know what? Don't start Canberra.
I'm sorry. I'm
serious.
But like seriously, that's what we're comparing it to. If people are putting them last,
apparently the reasoning is Kristian Woolf. Like, that's their reasoning. Can you explain that?
He was running the joint for half of the year last year.
Of course he was. Like, go back and watch any Dolphins game, and most of the time Bennett's like this in the corner.
I'm pretty sure he was their attack coach
Wasn't he running the training sessions or something from the start of last year?
It will be fine. If you're a Dolphins fan, they'll be fine. They're top. Well, at this stage, we're looking at Hammer at fullback, Bostock on the wing. He goes all right. Avarillo and Farnworth in the centres. They go all right. Azarko only been in top 3 of the point scorers last 2 years. Nikorima Katoa, Saifidi, I guess, starts. Marshall King was knocked out half of the year. That'll help. Flegler hasn't played. Is he still got the injured? Which one are we waiting on? He's got the... Is it Flegler or Gilbert?
Flegler's the shoulder.
We've still got...
And he might be out.
Gilbert should be fine with the knee back round 1. Flegler's possibility could miss a huge chunk.
I think around 14 or something like that. Kafusi and Gilbert in the back row. Max Plath at lock. Lemuelu, Nichols, Finil Fuiaki and Ray Stone on the bench. There's lots of forwards there, but I guess there's other options. Trey Fuller's also a bad injury. He'd be in conversation for 14. There's Mason Teague, a few others, Sean O'Sullivan.
That's right. He just got injured recently, didn't he, Fuller? Yeah, because I probably would have had him starting at 1 and push Hammer into the centres.
Yeah, and Avarillo.
You got him fit.
Tailor-made for a 14.
Yeah, 100%.
But to me, that doesn't reek of wooden spoon at all.
I was going to say, how does that roster finish last?
I think...
How good was Max Plath last year?
Max was fantastic.
I absolutely loved watching that bloke go. He should go to the Bulldogs. He'd just be... And the mascot as well. Like, he is just an absolute bulldog. Ripped in, smashing blokes. He's like 5'5" and he's running over the top of 7 foot blokes.
Like a nugget.
What the fuck is going on?
They play after GT and Vinny met him up when they went to Magic Round last year. And he's about this tall. They play the top 8 11 times. They only play top 4 5 times. They play, as usual, they play all the Queensland teams twice, plus the Raiders, Knights, Bunnies, Roosters, Warriors.
8 games against the bottom 5.
And they kick off with the Bunnies, the Knights, the Tigers and Broncos. So they've got a good start to the year. The first 5 games are all winnable.
One of the easier draws. I think I had them about the 3rd easiest draw out of the lot.
Yeah.
So
they've got tick, tick, tick so far. Well, tick for the draw, tick for the squad.
The thing is, they've got a bit of travel, back-to-back games, and they do have 2 5-day turnarounds, which not a lot of teams have this year, but which is a bit of a downside. But that's the teams that they have, and some of the runs, like they've got a really tough run, sort of round 6 through to round 10, where they hit a lot of top 4 teams. But aside from that, they should be ticking along pretty nicely towards the back end of the year.
So, end of the day, they did lose 4 of the last 15 games. Yes. But in that, there were a lot where, like, if there was another 5 minutes, they would have won. There was, they should have beaten Penrith at Penrith. They should have, Penrith up there, where Katoa didn't have the shot.
Yeah, if it was the Cleary field goal, that was in Penrith.
They probably should have beaten Penrith and Melbourne close to back-to-back. Remember, they didn't. They duffed that Melbourne game too.
There's one game where they lost about 5 blokes in the last 20 minutes and didn't have a bench. And
so
that was a Penrith game, wasn't it?
They're a little, it would have been like one of the greatest survival stories of all time. What does all this mean, Oliver? Apart from the fact I'm buying a Dolphins jersey at Rebel half price in Queensland in 2 weeks. Can't wait.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Look, I have them as one of those teams. I've got them missing the top 8, but I've got them 10th. So I've got them sort of, to me, realistically, I think I've got them on par with Brisbane. As in, they could very well make the 8. It's sort of a bit of a
I've pinned them in at 10th as well, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Flip of the coin, I think they'll be within 2 points of the top 8. Whoever these podcasters are that are supposedly tipping them to
I don't know
the spoon,
either.
Whoever it is, they must be planning to go around to the Dolphins training ground with a crowbar to take out half the ankle, take out half of these players, because that's what you're going to have to do for this team to finish last.
We've sitting around. No, I've said for the last 4 years, the Tigers will not run last. Well, here we go.
I really don't know where that call comes from, but I've got them sort of just missing the 8. Would not be surprised at all if they do make the top 8. It's just a solid roster, and even looking at their bench, and I've got the exact same 1 to 17 as you do. I think when you look at their bench, obviously it's not the greatest bench in the world, but in terms of the depth that certain other teams have, they're certainly not right down there.
Well, we just lamented the last 4 teams we talked about. Now they're going to get Saifiti's on the back end of his career, and potentially a log.
It was only 2 years ago, though. He was playing fantastic.
He's
they're getting, hopefully, Touch would get Tom Flegler at some point, who's a top
Gilbert
5 prop in the game, and Gilbert
massive.
apparently has been training the house down.
I was so keen to watch him play again last year. I said it all the preseason.
And they've discovered does Plath play? Is Plath a lock at lock?
I've got him lock. Yeah. Or do you mean more like a ball player?
No, but does he start at 14?
I don't know how he passes, but I know they've got Jeremy Marshall-King there, but if he needs a spell for 20 minutes, it's probably not a worst option in put him in at 9 as well.
He was fantastic at 9.
The way he defends and the speed he's got off the mark.
He did it for half the year last year. He was outstanding. The only thing that doesn't make him an automatic pick for Superco are 2 things. I don't know where he's going to start.
Yes.
And he's overpriced right now for not knowing. If I knew what I was going to get. But, that said, so they've got a forward pack. And they've got depth. Like, the professor might not make this starting 17, and he's a 200 game first grade prop.
Yep.
And they're getting Fina Fuiaki, who's a strike back rower.
And they just had one of the Bromwiches retire as well. So.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even mention Kenny. Kenny's in this squad.
Yeah.
Who's another 200 game back rower.
Got a pretty settled squad with, as you said, some additions coming in there. They can score plenty of points. We saw them rack up 30, 40 points on how many occasions last year. Like, once they get on a roll, you just, like, imagine trying to stop Hammer. The way he moves and runs that, just ran rings around blokes last year and made them look silly.
Hammer is now 2021 Pappenhausen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when he gets broken field, it's like you go to Magic Round or you go to a Dolphins game to see Hammer get some open space.
100%. And then you got the blokes like you mentioned, Asako, throw in Farnworth in there. They've got some movers out there and blokes with some good toe. Like, not the worst defensively out wide. There are a few questions around the middle. They did get opened up a few times by some teams through the middle in defence, and Plath helps, but and Gilbert coming back will be massive for them if they can keep him on the field. He was an Origin player before he did his ACL and then did it again, and hopefully his knees stay together for him. But that should strengthen up that middle a little bit. They've got plenty of flair on out wide. A little bit of a weakness maybe on the edges in defence. They can get turned around there as well. So if they can fix up that their defensive reads a little bit, they're a good shot of shaking into this 8 at the bottom there. But I just think that, again, there'll be points where they get dragged down into that fight, and teams will just sort of roll over them a little bit towards the back end of the year. Yeah, we mentioned their middles. They're probably one player short in the middle there, especially if Flegler comes back and is fully fit and they can keep those guys on the field, they're fine. But at the moment, obviously, they're struggling a little bit there. I think Katoa's going to be
I was about to say, we haven't mentioned the 7
brilliant
yet.
half.
He will be, by the time, what is he now? He's in like 22 as well. He's
22,
not even,
23, yeah.
He'll be in the top 4 half in the comp in the next 5 years.
100%. And probably
If
next
he's not,
2 years.
if he's not this year.
He's got a
His
fantastic
touch- you're gonna say
kicking
it.
game.
Yeah.
Got a good set of shoulders on him too. He's not a small boy. He's obviously spent his life tackling Islander back rowers that have been running at him down in the Penrith
the Western
Juniors.
suburbs, yeah.
So he's probably one of, if not the best defensive half in the competition, to be honest. And did it the right way. It was none of this flashy stuff at the start. It was always just about getting the team into the positions, and that'll come. I would not be surprised if there's a year in the next 18 months, 24 months where he just lights it up for half a season and just looks like the best player in the world. Hammer and Fuller, how long's Fuller out for? Do we know?
Indefinite is all I've heard, but it's not good. I think it's like ACL or something similar.
Yeah, right. Because that could have been a massive X factor for them.
Well, even at 14.
Just even switching them between positions.
Well, I'd say even 14 or opens Avarillo up to 14.
That could have been massive, but yeah, that's probably a little bit of a downside. They've got a bit of a small bench. We mentioned Plath, how good he is, but they might find it tough against some of the bigger forward.
Finafuaki helps.
Does help. And probably gets a few more minutes than what he was.
And like I
getting
said,
at
they've got a
Cowboys.
Kenny Bromwich up their sleeve. They've got some size there.
Well, Gilbert's not a small boy, neither is Flegler, but yeah, I can't see him going worse than they did last year. Maybe slightly better, but I've pegged him in at the same spot in 10th. So.
Me too. I'm saying 9th. I'm saying 9th, and in that they won't be they'll be in the top half of the Queensland teams this year. How about we say it that way?
Yeah.
No, last. Apparently they're going to be last. So
Well, the other thing about that sort of their back end of last year, do you remember it got to the stage where Bennett went to the press conference? Go? This would be the wrong one. Go. Okay. Where Bennett went to the press conference and basically said the team they picked was the only 17 players they could pick. Do you remember that? Because everyone's like, why have they got 3 centres on the bench? Or whatever. Like, it was a weird ass team. And he goes, well, that was it. Everyone else was rooted. So they can only improve, and I think we'll get to see Kristian Woolf do it, but I think there's a work ethic there. I think it's been drilled in. I think that I've said it from day one. They got the right old heads to be in there. I'm sure Jesse Bromwich is going to be a trainer or something, or whatever he's going to be up there, or run water. And I'm sure that they will be fine.
I do have one.
And if Katoa turns around and just like becomes a freak, well, then all of a sudden they're a top 5 team.
I do have one question. Their first 2 years in the comp, they have been top of the ladder after 7 rounds. Both years. Are we seeing a similar start to the season possibly? One, not necessarily where they're the very top of the ladder, but one where they just start really hot and then it sort of kind of filters down from there?
They play South's first game, which is interesting. Then Knights, Broncos, Titans. They could be 5 from 5. They could win all those games.
Yeah, they could.
I wouldn't be surprised after round 4 or 5 where they're running in probably the top 3, but they do have a run there after that. Round 5 there's probably 5 games where they could realistically lose 4 of those 5. So.
Do we sort of put those, because it's been 2 years in a row now and possibly 3, those really strong starts to the season to a Dragons and maybe 10 years ago where they've just the fittest, one of the fitter teams in the comp to start the year?
I think it more comes down to just the way that they've been organised, to be honest. They've obviously brand new team in the competition. They come in with the enthusiasm and the way that they're set up. They come out firing at the start of the year, and then by the back end of the year, it all gets a little bit too much for them. They have had significant injuries in both of those seasons as well, which has sort of dragged them into the mire at the back end of seasons. But
as I said, and I talked about this last year, first year they had to come out and win early.
So beat the Roosters round 1, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So they had to come out and they were gassed up to do that, and then ran out of fuel. Last year, injuries copped it.
Killed them.
To top 8 wouldn't surprise, but I'm going to say 9th.
You got a very young half in there as well. They're like the week to week is going to get.
It took them forever to realise Nicarima is a better option than O'Sullivan, who to be honest probably won't finish the season. Anything else? Supercoach, we've said that, haven't we?
Nope.
Okay.
So top scorer last year was Zasako, average 63, 617,000 to get him in. Herbie is 729. He actually averaged 74.4. Missed a few games there, obviously. Plath was their third highest average with 63.1. Scorer. The third 1,325 points for Max Plath with an average of 63. Herbie was the highest, 74.4. Hammer was second with 66.8. If they can keep him on the field for the entire season, he's definitely someone you should be looking at. Fuller average 64.7. You mentioned Fini Fuiaki, 53 minutes at the Cowboys, only scoring 37.6. I think if he gets the same minutes in this side, his points should increase markedly, up towards the 50s. So might be some money to be made there.
In a time we won't too many prognostications to Supercoach show, but geez, Tom Gilbert interests me if he's fit
0
and
games,
ready to
462k to bring him in.
he will finish the season over 550, if not 650.
Lemuelu, 484, didn't really get a shot at the start of the season. Averaged 49 by the back end of the year. He's probably an average 60 player if he's playing 70 to 80 minutes. So.
Obviously, they can't all do that, but yeah.